Hey guys, this is the EU Insurtech and Investment Show with Florian Graillot and me, Robin Kira, from the beautiful city of Paris and Hamburg. And we have a very special guest from high up in the north, Markko Waas, CEO and co-founder of the Claims Carbon Institute. Thank you very much, you all, for being here at this point in time.
Thank you for inviting us, Robin.
Thanks a
Yeah,
lot.
and by the way, if you are out there and you can watch this show as a later or now, don't hesitate to ask questions, share, like, comment, and show the algorithms that you love insurance. Florian, did you prepare some numbers for this month?
Yeah, as usual. Hi, everybody. And thanks a lot, Markko, for being with us. A few words about how November went in terms of investment in the insurtech scene. So still in the average in terms of number of rounds announced, 8 deals were announced for a total of 66 million euros. What is interesting is that it seems that there is a slight comeback from Series A round, high security in cybersecurity, Napo around pet insurance in the UK, and Omnius even with 12 million euros in Germany were quite significant compared to the small rounds that we had, let's say, got used to in the previous months. Interesting that the UK is back again in number one position in terms of activity, and obviously we are very happy to have Markko and Claims Carbon, because you announced a round. Slight disclaimer: we have invested in Claims Carbon. Nevertheless, thanks a lot, Markko, for being with us today. And maybe to start with, for those that don't know Claims Carbon, can you, in 1 or 2 sentences, explain basically what you are doing?
Yes, thank you, Florian. I'm based up in the Nordic, but traveling a lot to Europe, CO2 neutral. What we do at Claims Carbon, or why we're here to decarbonize the insurance industry. And what we exactly mean with that is that in your insurance exposure, in your supply chain, you can make a huge impact on insurer to become net zero. And we are a SaaS company who help insurance companies with data and insight in the journey to net zero.
Yeah, very.
By the way, thank you very much. We have our first comment from Brian Wigger, who said he loves also insurance. He's from Switzerland, so we say back, we love insurance in Switzerland for sure too. Yes, Florian, you have prepared some mean questions, I heard.
Yeah, definitely, and maybe the first question, because we basically know that insurance companies are quite ahead of the market in terms of fighting, let's say, climate change. But obviously, as an investor and as a user as well, we see a lot of horizontal players that are helping companies or people tracking their CO2 emissions. So can you say how you compare to this player? Are you, I guess, not redundant, rather complementary to this player? So can you say a few words about that and basically what and why you are doing things so specifically to the insurance space?
First, if you start with your last question, why in this vertical? Why just insurance? And first, it's a huge industry. That means they have a very positive impact if they succeed becoming net zero. Roughly 1% of the CO2 emissions globally arise from the supply chain of an insurance company. So that's why we're here. It's a huge opportunity, both for the climate and also for us as a company. Second, there are a lot of companies focusing on insurance companies' operations. Usually that's 1 to 5% of the CO2 emissions of an insurance company. Then we have the investment exposure, and that's the red ocean. I mean, of course, the insurance industry has done that for many years, and roughly about 50 to 60% of the emissions arise from the investments. Then you have the insurance exposure left, and no one has thought about it before. We are in the forefront, and usually it's 30 to 40% of the emissions. So why we are here? First, we are insurance nerds, worked in the industry many years, and we strongly believe if you're going to succeed, you need to be a nerd in this industry, because it's a lot about data. You need to know about the value chain. So that's why we started here and why we believe we have also potential to make huge impact, actually decreasing the CO2 emissions globally.
Yeah, and by the way, that's a good transition to the team itself, because you referred yourself as a nerd or geek of the insurance space. Can you say a few words about, especially the background, yours obviously, and maybe the two or three other key people in the founding team that are relevant, because it says something about the market, the positioning, and where the idea is coming from, which is obviously always very interesting to learn about.
Yeah, we are 4 founders, and I think most of us started early 2000 working in the insurance industry, and started with, I mean, in the core, I'll say units in insurance company, underwriting risk as a liability modeling. So that was our starting point in the insurance industry. So, I mean, of course, that's a very good background if you want to start build models, algorithms in the insurance industry. You need to know the basics, because the insurance industry is very, as you know, financial driven, model driven. I mean, that's the culture. So, I mean, to be able to succeed in this vertical, you need to know your customer very well. And then we have now also, how to say, I worked the last 3-4 years in the tech industry, actually with automatic claims in private healthcare. But what is good, I will learn about the tech parts. So hopefully we are a good team. But to be honest, what we are lacking now is we need to increase our knowledge on the sustainability side, because we know what we are good on and what we are not good in. Yes.
You said you're a model-driven, or we are a model-driven industry. I mean, look at us. Of course, we're model-driven. All kidding aside, yes. I mean, we're insurance nerds. We can make these jokes. But let's talk about a different model, business model. So I understand your concept, but what are you actually selling? What is your product? What can I buy from you?
What you can buy from us, I mean, you can actually you can buy a SaaS platform from us for motor insurance. And what actually does it mean in a startup? Don't forget, we've been around roughly a year. So what you buy from us today is that we maybe get 700,000 claims you export to us. You get data back on each claim, what the CO2 emissions are. Of course, then you can start to aggregate in a dashboard how you want to slice and dice and see on portfolio level, find the hotspot, digging into individual claims. And of course, as an insurer, what really matters, okay, you get the baseline, but of course you want to start to understand what moves the needle. I mean, because you want to make impact, both on the sustainability side, but don't forget, there is also a return on investment side here, because if you start to use more recycled parts instead of new repair parts, of course, the margins are better. And to put it frank, of course, the insurers are also interesting, both on the impact side and even having better margins in the future. But of course, you need to have a discussion how should you split these margins? Is it the OEM, is it the insurer, or is it the client and the customer?
But what you're saying is, so I understand that an insurer, let's put it that way, when we have regulatory pressure on us that we need to become carbon neutral by whatever 2500 or something like that, all kidding aside, that makes sense. But what you're saying actually is saving the world does also have a positive impact on your return on invest, because carbon intense claims are very likely to be also very expensive, and if you have a carbon neutral or saving way to handle that claim, that may be even better for the bottom line.
Correct. And of course, worked in the Nordics, and now I work also with customers in Europe. I mean, of course, every market is different. The customers, are more or less prepared for the value proposition. If the insurer makes change in the terms and conditions, okay, I accept that my bumper are fixed with plastic or repaired, reused plastic in some countries, and others not. But I mean, for me, the trend is clear. I think the world will go much more to a circular economy. Think about the next customer. think about, you have high claims inflation right now. So I mean, but it will take time in some countries and some countries not. For example, when I discuss with clients in Southern America, this is no issue because they have so high claims inflation. They have so much, how to say, cracks in the car in Sao Paulo. So this is not a problem. And of course, when I talk with clients in Germany, of course, this topic is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, and that's interesting because you refer to several geographies, and back to the point that you raised, Robin. The truth is that there is no regulation yet in that space. So it's also a need from, let's say, the insurance space and an understanding from the insurers themselves that they have an interest into that direction. And by the way, they have launched the Net Zero Insurance Association, which is a proactive way, let's say, to promote the road to net zero. I believe that they have such damages to take care of due to the climate change that they have an interest, even in terms of business, to be careful with climate change and try to be careful. Obviously, tracking and getting the data is one point. So you briefly mentioned the US. You referred to Germany. I guess that you obviously have also a nice footprint in the Nordics. Can you say a bit about your existing customer, rather in terms of which kind of players are they? Is there any location that is more advanced, at least in your pipeline? The big pictures in terms of business development would be very nice.
Yes, we have clients in all the Nordic countries. We have now clients in Germany and also pretty soon a client in UK. And so, I mean, what is, nice for us as a company is that the product itself is scalable. I mean, a motor insurance looks almost the same in Stockholm than in Hamburg, Cologne, or UK. I mean, the product itself is very scalable. That means that it's for us as a company. When we started in the Nordics, we went to Germany quite quickly. They understood that we have a model that will work also in Germany. So that's why I think we have got quite quickly a footprint outside the Nordic. Usually, as a company, it's difficult to leave your home turf, as Nordic is. And I mean, the traditional clients we have, they have traditional P&C companies, have a large motor portfolio, and understand why you should start with motor insurance. And of course, I will come back to that. The next product, of course, will be property. And of course, property is a little bit more complex because the claims are much more heterogeneous compared to claims in motor insurance.
Okay, so basically you started with, because that was one of my questions, why did you started with car insurance instead of home, health, or whatever? So is that only around the complexity of the product for home? Yeah.
No, also where is the larger carbon footprint? It is in motor insurance. And it's so easy why it is, because cars are made of steel, aluminum, and plastic. And those are still very carbon intensive industry. And I don't know, but at least in the Nordics, there are many projects now about fossil-free steel. But it will take time before that will go out in, I would say, commercial production in large volumes. And second, another one takeaway we have from the Nordics is that EVs, I mean, of course, you said, for example, in Germany, after 2035, we will now only manufacture EVs. And of course, that will be an interesting challenge for the insurance industry, how to tackle claims for EVs. And we have the experience from Nordics. And surprise, surprise, most people think that EVs will be good short-term regarding carbon emissions, but the answer is the opposite.
EV is electric vehicles.
Yes, yes. They are, to be a little bit insurance nerdy, they are heavy. When you have accident, usually the cost is much more because how they're constructed. And thirdly, the batteries is still a problem. We haven't fixed that yet in the global how to recycle the batteries in an efficient way.
I could start now a political discussion, but I won't.
Yeah.
Let's go! And I would invite a lot of my friends sitting in various parliaments, but I don't, because, you know, we want to keep the show running.
Yes.
Let's go down the insurance route. You have raised some money, I heard. The big question is, what are your plans for the future? Because I have a funny feeling that your model does not only work in the countries you're in right now, but it's, you know, it's a tech platform, it's SaaS, it's scalable. The use cases are pretty similar from country to country. So what are your conquering the world plans?
Conquering plans, of course, you need to have a product that the customer wants to have. We need to continue to, improve our motor model, but we have now started to work with the property model. And hopefully we have that in place end of Q1, the first version of it. And as I said before, the challenge with property most likely will be that if you start with the retail and move up in the large corporates, I would say the risks are a little bit different. So we need to, of course, as a SaaS company, as a product company, we need to constantly develop our products. And then I think end of next year, hopefully we'll go into health insurances, because we have got a lot of requests. Could you please help us with carbon calculations regarding health insurances? Not so much in the Nordic, but in those countries where the private healthcare is a big part of the total spending. Those insurers and suppliers are very interesting in what we are doing. And of course, then you need to scale up the team. We need to find talents. So if you have any talents out there, please reach out to Claims Carbon. We need to, you will find on our webpage which talents we need shortly or already today.
Are you looking for people in Stockholm? Are you looking for people?
No, I mean, we have said remote first because some of these talents we need, they don't have to be based in Stockholm or Helsinki or Oslo. Yes, and then, I mean, so yes, product, talent, both on the tech side, and also, I forgot to say, sustainability side. As I started to say 15 minutes ago, we know insurance, we are insurance geeks, but we don't know sustainability so good yet. So of course, we need talents that comes from the other, sector.
And by the way, maybe to make the link with the product, because you detail your plans, let's say, to go beyond motor insurance to property, then health, to better understand how you can replicate basically what you have built so far in such different areas. Can you share a bit about basically the customer journey? So how does that process? You refer to the SaaS platform, but what's the relationship in terms of flow, in terms of data, probably with the customers?
First, we can start with the, GHG protocol. There's a protocol how to do the CO2 emission calculations, carbon. So that's already fixed, So you need to follow that. But I will not go into detail with that because then people will leave the meeting. But secondly, I mean, what the insurance companies are good in, they have the financial data. So I mean, what we have how to scalable algorithm, how to combine financial data from the insurance companies with carbon data. So I mean, that's why hopefully it will work when we go to other lines of businesses also. But and in the end of the day, what we would like to have, and it will take some time. Today, insurance companies have financial data, but they don't have activity data, how many kilograms they use. The day they know how many kilograms they spent on steel, aluminum, of course, then the data quality will be even better, because don't forget, the insurance industry has been around for 200-300 years, and it's based on financial data. I can talk a lot about what will happen regarding the data quality on the sustainability side, because this has been a challenge on the investment exposure also. But the important thing, you need to start. Otherwise, it will be too late if you think about the big picture. And actually, if you're going to have 2050, 1.5 degrees, the Paris Agreement, I mean, if you think a little bit wider, that's what really matters. And we're already behind. Sorry to say that.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe a few words on the geographic scale. So you have already mentioned that you have a bit of traction beyond your domestic market, but do you have any, let's say, specific plan in mind, or do you expect any market to be more, let's say, answering or interested in the product that you are offering? You refer to Germany, you mentioned the UK, maybe France, the US. So how do you see the geographic expansion, or is that pure opportunistic?
No, it's not pure opportunistic. I mean, when you get a footprint in one country, which we have in Germany, of course, then you see traction. And with one of our clients in Germany, they are a global player, and I had the opportunity to meet all the CEOs of that insurance company. And that, because then I saw that claims inflation are very high, like in Spain, Portugal, Southern America. Then there was a huge interest in the product. And then when I talked about UK, then the CEO said, okay, then we have our biggest problem is with OEMs, because they just want to send us new parts, original parts, expensive parts. So I mean, it's both getting a footprint and being a little bit opportunistic. Australia is another country, I mean, shown a great interest. As you know, they have huge climate, problems. And of course, there are a lot of activities there from the legislation part that actually putting pressure on large corporations to decrease the carbon emissions. That's my answer today. But as a startup, things changes also. You need to be opportunistic also. You don't have afford to sit on the side and say, doesn't sound good. That's not why I'm an entrepreneur.
I mean, thank you for sharing that. But I find really interesting for every entrepreneur watching right now, or actually salesperson, is, if you get an entry into a large organization which has subsidiaries in different countries, it can help you enter these countries when, the boss of country A says to boss of country B, hey, these are great guys, have a look at them. They can solve a problem. Florian, you have one last question, I think.
Yeah, maybe on the team itself, you refer to a few profile before. You also mentioned that you have a kind of remote footprint, but is there any specific background that you are looking for? So you refer to knowledge in ESG, but around the sales or the product itself, is there any specific, let's say, profiles or background that you are looking for? Are you looking for startup people, tech people, corporate people? This kind of background, beyond again the geography that we hear, is not a point to start with.
My wish list for Christmas is twofold. I need a person who really likes to dig into data, carbon data, because of course we want to improve the quality of what we're doing. I mean, really, who thinks that's interesting and important thing, what we call an impact analyst or a data analyst. That's my first wish. Second wish, of course, we need to scale up the team. And one important thing is that you need to have, as you say in the tech world, a customer success manager, because you need to keep the customers happy. You need to understand what they want to have. And of course, if they happy and what we know what they want to have, of course, you will get revenue. So these two, I would say, talents, we all started to look in search for actually this Friday. So that's my wish list before Christmas. And after Christmas, I mean, we already have some senior, old insurance nerd in the Europe, and it has worked very well because they can be door openers. Because usually we need to start to discuss on C-level. Otherwise, it will take too long time.
No.
Yeah, and by the way, as speaking of the Christmas kind of wish list,
yes.
for the insurance company that are listening to us, can you give us an idea of how fast they could start working with you? Are we speaking about let's say months of implementation, or is that something that you can start with a part of their claim portfolio and then expand? Yeah, just a kind of time frame of a project, would say, if they want to work with you.
Of course, first you need to have all the contractual issues, and usually goes quite quickly. I'm surprised even the big insurance companies have quick processes these days. But I mean, a good case is with this German insurance company who is very big. We had the first meeting in beginning of August, and I mean the first steering group meeting and the data output was 28th of September.
That's very fast for the German insurance industry. If I would know which insurer it was, it probably would deserve a medal, award, or recognition of some kind. Because sometimes we're working for insurance clients like 2 years, and then we have like 2 days for implementation. But I didn't want to interrupt. So that sounds like a pretty great and fast way and to convince an insurance decision maker so quickly to put all the resources in making all of that possible. This should be an advertisement, but it speaks for the solution, I think, and I'm not invested. One last question, because we know we have a lot of things to do. And one last question for you is, you now shared a lot for our listeners. Is there anything the listeners can do for you?
Go into Claims Carbon webpage and apply for Carbon Analyst and Customer Success Manager.
All right. Thank you very much. Got that. So, and everybody can tag people here who think that should be a good move, and they are remote first, so you don't need to move to the, not cheap city of Helsinki, Oslo, or Stockholm. Thank you very much for everybody here watching. Thank you very much, Markko, for coming here, and Florian for being the best sidekick in the international insurance, insurtech, and investment sphere.
Thanks a lot, Robin. Thanks a lot, Markko.
Thank you very much.
Bye.